I want to make one thing very clear right off the bat. I'm aware that the Talbert Files cannot be used to solve the current lore in any way whatsoever. That's not my intention here at all. What I'm doing here is looking through what we have of the book, and looking for how it may have inspired the stuff we already know to be true. Also, I might be a little bit off the walls here, and I probably should have waited longer to make this video because I'm on a total hyperfixation high right now. But I didn't wait, and now you're facing the consequences, I guess. With that out of the way, some of you may be asking, what are the Talbert Files? This is a leaked early version of the Freddy Files book, which was about an in-universe investigator, Mr. Talbert, looking into the tragedies of Freddy's. This was written in between Sister Location and Pizzeria Simulator, and it's clear that Scott had no idea where he was going to take the story at this point. There are a lot of contradictory ideas in this thing, and Scott himself said it was more like a list of ideas than anything else. So ever since I found out about this thing, I've been trying to figure out which ideas he ended up using and how he used them. And what I found was, in my opinion, really cool. There are quite a few things in here that inspired Pizzeria Simulator. The missing kids' names are here. The general story of Henry and Charlotte is in here, although it's with Cassidy and her dad Emmett Tucker, who built the mediocre melodies. By the way, Cassidy is a perfect example of what I mean by the book being contradictory. Cassidy is the puppet here, but she's also Golden Freddy. That's kind of impossible. The book also has a few references to Molten Freddy, meaning he was always planned to be a thing in the 6th game. But what I found by far the most interesting is that there's a ton of stuff in here that got reworked into the Fazbear Frights books. In fact, I'd bet money that Scott was already planning those books at this time, and they evolved to fit with the story Scott settled on for Pizzeria Simulator. It would certainly explain why Scott said to look to these books to fill in blanks to the past. First of all, the Talbert Files has the Stitch Wraith in it. This isn't the same Stitch Wraith we know of, though. This is actually Michael Afton in a trench coat, gathering up old toys and human body parts, and seemingly stitching them into monstrosities for some reason. Aside from obviously showing us where the idea for the Stitch Wraith came from, this also explains how Scott came up with the idea of stuff like the plush trap with human eyes and teeth and out of stock. Next, we have Scrap Baby, who apparently hangs out in the junkyard and is responsible for several mutilations. Does that sound familiar? If it does, it's because that's the plot of To Be Beautiful. And remember Emmett, who I mentioned earlier? He's repurposed in Frights 2. He appears in Find Player 2, where he gets arrested for trying to kidnap his daughter who he lost custody of, which is also referenced in this book, which is also another contradiction. And you know how I've been calling this the Talbert Files? The in-universe author of this book, Mr. Talbert, is in Frights 2. He shows up in the epilogues. He bought the rights to the Freddy's building in Frights, but in the Talbert Files, he bought the items from the FNAF 3 auction. The items he bought are oddly specific and seem to tie to the happiest day, which makes me wonder if they're what was originally supposed to be in the box. Probably not, since as far as we know the box was never mentioned in this book, but it's something I'll be keeping in mind at least, even though I probably shouldn't. This guy is also seemingly Phone Guy in the Talbert Files. I guess at one point Scott considered having Phone Guy survive. To cap things off, there's one really cool, albeit now outdated, detail hidden in this thing. Originally, William built the puppet and designed it after his son, and that's why they look so similar. That honestly would have explained a lot. Also, Shatter Victim is seemingly a thing here, and the crying child was the first death, which means Scott has at least toyed with these ideas, which makes it really cool that we caught on to them whether he decided to go with them or not. To be honest, even though this thing is objectively awful, it's the coolest thing I've seen in a long time. I love seeing how my favorite things were developed. And if you want to look through this thing yourself, I've left a link in the description. Okay, bye.